It's the 15th of February, 2021. I wake up and go onto Google as anyone else would do. After a respectable 0-0 draw against Champions League qualification rivals Wolfsburg, it would have made sense to search up Borussia Monchengladbach without a sinking feeling in my stomach. However, as expected, I was greeted with the headline that confirmed my fears. Borussia Dortmund to appoint Marco Rose as head coach. The man who had masterminded Gladbach's progression from a Champions League group that contained Real Madrid and Inter Milan just jumping ship over to a domestic rival. What followed was a month-long losing streak, only broken by a Schalke team that had already accepted relegation. Frankfurt's Adi Hütter was eventually revealed as Ross's successor, and at the time it seemed a very clever appointment. The Bundesliga is a funny league, in that most transfers tend to stay domestic. It's where the buy and buy the Bundesliga phrase comes from, and it doesn't just mean players. Julian Nagelsmann was picked up by the Bavarians from rivals RB Leipzig after Hansi Flick announced his resignation. Dortmund, after sacking Lucien Favre, swiped Rose from Gladbach, who then swiped Adi Hütter from Frankfurt, who then took Oliver Glasner from Wolfsburg, who ended the chain by taking Mark van Bommel from PSV. Well, more like a postponement, because after sacking Van Bommel soon after, Werder Bremen's Florian Kohfeldt was appointed. On top of all of that, Frankfurt managed to finish in 5th at the end of the 2020-21 Bundesliga season, 1 point behind Champions League qualifications. Compared to the Rose capitulation that left Gladbach outside of the European places, Hütter seemed like the right choice for a team whose aspirations were a lot higher than the near relegation they suffered a decade prior. What I didn't expect was the prospect of Gladbach returning to the same position they were 10 years ago. This is a numbers-based YouTube channel, so I won't drag on with the history as much anymore. But jumping straight into things, at the time of writing, after Gladbach's 2-1 loss to Bayer Leverkusen, the team found themselves in 12th place with 22 points, 4 points above relegation and 6 points behind 7th place and Europa Conference League qualification. The Champions League is a different story, 9 points behind 4th place and surprise candidates Hoffenheim. Getting back to the starry heights and Bernabeu Knights seems like an unrealistic dream at this point. 1 win and 3 losses in 5 games has Gladbach with the 3rd worst form in the league. But wait, isn't this the team that has remained unbeaten by Bayern Munich this season and beat them 5-0 in the cup? Well, the mystery of Bayern's bogey team goes a bit deeper than giant killings. A quick look at the Bundesliga's stats tables will reveal that Gladbach are in 5th place for expected goals, racking up 1.71 xG per 90 minutes on average across their 19 matches so far. 15.37 shots per 90 puts them up in 2nd place, only behind Bayern, who are more or less an outlier in every metric. High ranking for total and progressive carries suggests that Gladbach are a team that are comfortable on the ball, and a high success rate for dribbles backs this up. So why are De Fohlen doing so badly right now? Well, creating a large volume of XG is good, but good chances need to be converted. As shown by this XG performance table, using goals minus expected goals, Gladbach are outputting the 2nd least amount of goals compared to their XG. Now, this could be down to 2 different factors: below average finishing or above average goalkeeping. A good way of measuring finishing ability is by comparing regular XG to post-shot XG, a concept I'll touch more on in a later video. For now, a quick explanation is that post-shot XG takes into account the trajectory of the shot, not just the position and numbers of defenders, discounting shots that are destined to go off target. Whilst Gladbach have an XG of 32.5, their post-shot XG is 27.2. That's 5.3 expected goals wasted on off-target shots, and also the greatest waste of all Bundesliga sides. That 5.3 XG is also about 16% of Gladbach's total XG used up on off-target shots. Only Wolfsburg are doing worse proportionately, and it has to be considered that Wolfsburg sacked their original manager. So what do all these numbers really mean? Well, if a team are creating a large amount of XG, then tactically, the attacking philosophy of the manager isn't really much of an issue. Gladbach's real issue stems from the fact that players are not finishing their chances. Whilst Jonas Hoffmann, the shining light for the team, has 7 goals in 14 appearances, players expected the score. The likes of Alessandro Player, Brian Mbolo, Lars Stindl and Marcus Thuram combined can only equal that 7 that Hoffmann has put up. Speaking of Hoffmann, the German is one of only 5 players to overperform their XG this season. Without finishers actually being able to finish chances, goals are going to be scarce. That being said, having an impenetrable defence can make up for having a less than average attack. You can't lose if you don't concede after all. So let's see whether Gladbach have been anything like a wall this season, starting off with the goalkeeper. As keepers like David De Gea have shown over the past few years, the man in between the sticks can single, or in this case double-handedly, drag a team through a season. Gladbach's number 1 for this season and previous seasons has been Swiss international Yann Sommer. You may know him for that one penalty save against France in the Euros, or when he completely read Jorginho's penalty technique. Well, for Gladbach watchers, that's not a surprise. In the team's most recent loss against Leverkusen, Sommer managed to save 2 penalties in the same game. Sommer ranks in the 94th percentile for penalties saved over the past year, with a 100% record this season as well. Taking a closer look at the Bundesliga season, Sommer's shot stopping has been somewhat impressive. A save rate of 66.3% ranks him in a modest 33rd percentile. However, when looking at post-shot XG minus goals allowed, a metric commonly used to evaluate shot stopping ability, Sommer shoots up to the 88th percentile, with plus 0.17 per 90 minutes. Essentially, Sommer has by himself prevented 3.23 goals this season. So, with a good goalkeeper, Gladbach must be safe, right? Wrong. Take a look at this graph. Gladbach ranks 2nd for post-shot XG faced, per 90 minutes, in the Bundesliga this season. The team above them, Borussia, are rock bottom of the league, and are more or less fated for relegation. Yann Sommer can only do so much in goal. The team are allowing their opposition the time and space to get off good quality shots very often in matches. Well, a question here could be, is the problem the volume of shots or the quality of shots? If the issue is quality, then there's an issue with the areas that shots are being conceded. If the issue is with volume, then there's a major issue with the defence preventing shooting opportunities. To figure this out, we'll have to look at another graph or two. Looking at shots on target faced, Gladbach are conceded the 3rd most. It's a bit of a pattern, isn't it? Gladbach coming in as the 3rd worst team statistically? It's very worrying and suggests that a relegation playoff could be coming soon if things don't change. So, comparatively, Gladbach are facing a large number of shots. But what about the quality of the shots faced? It's still not good. Ranking 3rd, again, for post-shot XG per shot on target in the Bundesliga, suggests that not only are Gladbach conceding a high volume of shots, they're conceding a high volume of high quality shots. And when you mix those two flavours together, you're sure to get a bad taste in your mouth. To cap this all off, in Gladbach's 2-1 loss to Leverkusen, 6.44 XG was recorded by the opposition. Now, I don't have much historical data, but that has to be a record. For reference, using the in-game editor on Football Manager 2022, I moved the world's best players to Leverkusen and played against Gladbach, and I still couldn't rack up 6.44 XG. Am I bad at FM? Maybe. But I don't think Gladbach are very good at defending either. Something needs to be done about the defence. But what exactly? According to WhoScored.com, 72% of the attempts on goal conceded by Gladbach come from the middle of the pitch. That proportion is the 2nd highest in the league, with the team also conceding a larger than average proportion of their shots from the right-hand side. I also decided to watch every single goal that Gladbach have conceded this season so far, because although this is a stats-based channel, the eye test still works very, very well. My eye test also checks out pretty well with these numbers. Teams seem to get the better of Gladbach through crosses and cutbacks, especially with assists coming from the right-hand side of De Vollen's defence. A good promotion for the eye test is that whilst most goals are being conceded in this manner, statistically speaking, the team don't actually concede that many crosses compared to other teams in the league, and the team's 50.6 aerial duel success rate is very average for the Bundesliga. These numbers led me to question whether this was more of a personnel issue than a tactical one. According to Understat.com, Hutter has mainly deployed a 3-4-1-2 formation, with the aim of the wingbacks to push forward. In that lineup, Joe Scally and Stefan Leiner have been present in the right wingback position, whereas Nico Elvedi has normally been placed as the central centre-back. Given that a large amount of attacking threat has been put up against those three, I decided to take a look at their performances so far. I will admit that I felt guilty about looking at Scally, considering that I have recently taken a positive look at him in a Wonder Kid watch. His attacking talent is still okay, with fairly good possession rankings this season so far, whilst also showing off his impressive ability passing the ball. However, defensively, it's not been so great for the American. I will preface this with a reminder that this is the 19-year-old's debut season in the Bundesliga, after joining from the MLS, so things must be taken with several tablespoons of salt. Gladbach are a team that like to do the majority of their defending in the middle third, which makes some sense given the generally high line that Bundesliga teams like to deploy. So, ranking in the 48th percentile for tackles made in the middle third amongst fullbacks this season isn't the best showing. On top of this, a 40% tackle success rate against dribblers and a 28.9% successful pressure rate puts him in the 26th percentile for both metrics. That's more or less the bottom quarter of Bundesliga fullbacks this season for tackling, with low numbers for blocks and clearances as well. It appears that Scally has been somewhat of a passenger this season defensively, and when German teams hit you on the brake with speed, being a passenger will quickly get you into a car crash in a Volkswagen. Anyway, that's not to say that Scally is a bad player. Judging and comparing his attacking and defensive numbers will give an idea that the wingback is simply being asked to prioritise attacking too much, whilst sacrificing a lot of defensive stability. If this tactical decision was working, Gladbach wouldn't be in the position that they're in now. Liner has been out for a period this season, and actually doesn't have enough minutes for FBref.com to qualify his stats for this season alone. But over the last 365 days, his defensive stats are a bit more promising. High numbers of blocks and clearances, along with a good pressing volume across the pitch. High defensive rankings compared to European fullbacks is a good sign for the Austrian, and maybe a sign that he should be favoured over Scally, at least for the time being. One issue that has to be highlighted is his low success rate when tackling dribblers, ranking in the 11th percentile. He's actually ranked in the 2nd percentile for being dribbled past as well, as in, he's in the top 2% for most frequently dribbled past players in Europe over the past year. He also doesn't really give too much on the attacking front. A comparison to make here is the current question of Diogo Dalot or Aaron Wan-Bissaka for Manchester United this season. With one, you get good attack but not so good defending, but with the other, the qualities are reversed. In some ways it's a good issue to have, especially in the case of Manchester United, but for a team that's struggling in the league, making the right decision on which right wing back to select could make or break a game. Now, I've been on FBref.com many times for these videos. It's a great stats source that's easy to use. One function that it has, and one I've been using for this video, is their scouting report. It's been a very long time since I've seen this much red on the scouting report. Nico Elvedi's defensive numbers are shockingly low, ranking in the 33rd percentile for tackle percentage, in the 12th percentile for tackles won, 6th for successful pressures, 21st for tackles and interceptions, amongst other low-ranking metrics. Nico's 3 saving graces are his above average number of errors leading to goals, 0, like most other defenders, his high number of shots blocked, which wouldn't need to occur if shots were prevented, and the fact that he hasn't been dribbled past much this season either. Now, it's also worth noting that Gladbach haven't conceded many goals through a player just running through the defence. Most of the time, Elvedi's real challenges are dealing with crosses and cutbacks, so the fact that he's accumulated a low volume of defensive actions isn't too much of a cause of concern. However, they should be made up for by the ability to prevent crosses and cutbacks from being an issue, through aerial duel success rates, interceptions and clearances, something that he's not been doing this season. Whilst the wider centre-backs like Matthias Ginter are also somewhat responsible for this, Ginter has been pulling his weight through high rankings for tackle win rate, successful pressures and by making last-ditch shot-stopping blocks. To conclude on Gladbach's defensive issues, on a tactical front, a few things could be tweaked to try and hide the vulnerability of the right-hand side, but realistically, the main issue is one of personnel, and Hutter will need to look at his squad and make sure that he's putting the right people on the pitch to maximise results. In terms of attacking personnel, as mentioned before, Jonas Hoffmann is one of a very small sample of Gladbach players who are overshooting their expected goals this season. Hoffmann himself actually accounts for 28% of Gladbach's goals this season, and the team's performances have suffered from his recent absence from the side through injury. The fact that Hoffmann has been a regular for the German national team this season, as well as Florian Neuhaus, another player in that frame for overshooting XG, is a sign that the team does have some good midfield talent. However, this shouldn't be the headlining attacking feature. Gladbach also don't seem to have a commanding striker. Lars Stindl is more of a creative player than a finisher, as well as Alisson's player, and Briel Mbolo feels like more of a defensive forward, with most of his qualities coming from his pressing game rather than his ability to hit the back of the net. So I've highlighted Gladbach's faults in a fairly in-depth fashion, but there's no point in me complaining for a long time if I don't give my opinions on potential solutions. A very easy thing to say is make transfers. Max Ebel right now already knows that two of the team's main starters are set to leave at the end of the season, so making a move now could be good in the short and long term. However, historically the January transfer window has been quite tight, with many teams wanting to hold on to their players in order to achieve their goals. One signing that has been made already is that of Union Berlin central defender Marvin Frederick. Is he a good signing? Definitely. Marvin ranks in the 83rd percentile for tackles in the defensive third, an area that Gladbach have not been very good in so far, as well as boasting a 93rd percentile rank for percentage of dribblers tackled compared to other Bundesliga centre-backs. Fairly decent rankings for passes blocked and interceptions show signs of potentially dampening the issues being faced right now, although a low aerial duel success rate still leaves the team slightly weaker in the air. Seeing as Ginter was benched by Hutter in favour of Friedrich against Leverkusen does suggest that this was more of a replacement signing than a bolstering one. Even with that signing, Gladbach don't have too much quality at the back in depth. If Friedrich or Ginter were to be injured, it could spell disaster for the team. Now, whilst a move for Nico Schlotterbeck is a Bundesliga transfer probably reserved for the high-flying European clubs, perhaps Stuttgart's Vladimir Anton could be a good addition for around 6 million euros, or perhaps Niklas Stark from Hertha Berlin if the team wants to prioritise someone decent in the air for around 9 million euros. Then again, those could be silly suggestions given that I thought about them on the fly, and I'm not Max Ebel. Gladbach's budget could be quite low, and I'm not sure how much Stuttgart and Hertha would be willing to let those players go mid-season, considering that both clubs are in similar positions themselves in the table. On the striking front, we need someone that can finish. Anyone. Taking the financial side into account, a loan signing may not be a terrible idea that could work out for both parties, giving a player game time whilst also providing a new goal outlet. Holding on to Dennis Zakaria this window could be a pretty big deal as well, although with rumours of Manchester United being interested in a £7 million deal, a swift reinvestment of that money may not be so bad. I've also mentioned some tactical issues. I personally think that Florian Neuhaus should be one of the first names on the team sheet every week, alongside Jonas Hoffmann, in order to provide a goal-scoring threat. I would give Leiner the shout over Scally on the right-hand side, and perhaps a back three of Ginter, Elvedi and Friedrich might be enough, although having Elvedi as a central centre-back may be something to tweak. Of course, one thing with predictions, expectations and large over and under performances is that things may just regress to what they should be eventually. Eventually, Gladbach may start scoring again to match their XG. If we want to just take the 6.44 XG conceded as an anomaly rather than a trend, then perhaps the team will concede less. But then again, eventually Jan Sommer may stop saving as many shots, and eventually even Jonas Hoffmann may drop off. Eventually may come too late. But as I sit and write all of this out, I'm just hoping that next year, on the 15th of February 2023, I can wake up, search up Borussia Monchengladbach, and maybe see some positive news. Thank you guys for watching the video. This has been a really long recording session, and my brain is fried with the amount of stuff that I've had to do for this video. So if you've enjoyed any part of this, learned anything new, or found yourself caring a little bit more about Gladbach this season, hit the video with a like, or maybe even subscribe if you enjoyed it that much and want to see something new. I'm trying to do a little bit more in terms of the editing and the graphs for these videos, so anything would be great. But yeah, in any case, I've been Manny, this is The Numbers Game, and I'll see you guys soon.